the brochure, it has to make sense, right?
Yep.
So when we're talking about content, what are the most important parts of the content that you want to focus on?
The main page of the brochure needs to, at least, who are you? Like, that's the main thing. You want to put out there who you are. Don't just all of a sudden, here's a brochure with a list of things. Like on the first page. Like, because if you just do it on the first page, it's like, oh, okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to the FIP Printing Pros podcast. I'm your host, Josh Dynison, and with me, as always, my co-host, Chris Lockwood.
Welcome.
And today what we'll be talking about is how to turn your brochures that you do into a high-performing, converting item for your company. And basically, I'll start off with, I will show, we both got different trifolds for FIP, kind of the different little look that I've done. Obviously, we have more of like a graffiti style look, so I got the brick wall and spray paint and then fill in the gaps. But what we did is obviously each page is dedicated to different things. Like this page is our print services, and then on the bottom we got the picture of the print items. Then on this page, apparel with a bunch of apparel, and then this one's signs and banners with signs and banners. And this one we did have to do two different ones, but it's categorized, and that's like a big thing is where you want to categorize it really well, add some visuals to it so that people can connect what you're promoting with the visual. And that, in my opinion, is like a good brochure. And it stands out. It's colorful, eye-catching. And to me, that's very important.
Let's talk about the elements of the brochure.
Yep.
Right, and then kind of break down why each one of those is important. So, I mean, first thing is obviously the content of the brochure has to be what it needs. You know, it has to make sense, right?
Yep.
So when we're talking about content, what are the most important parts of the content that you want to focus on?
First and foremost, the main page of the brochure needs to, at least, who are you? Like that's the main thing. You want to put out there who you are. Don't just all of a sudden, here's a brochure with a list of things. Like on the first page. Like, because if you just do it on the first page, it's like, oh, okay. Like,
well, let me back up. So when we're talking brochures, we're talking there. It's going to be a folded paper of some sort. So what's the difference in that's what makes it a brochure, right?
Brochure
Otherwise, it would
folded.
be a flyer.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Just wanted to clear that up before we went further. So like in my example, and even on yours, like it's a picture with the name and the website.
Typically. Now you can,
Like you got a little bit on yours,
we listed out all of our items down here, and then that we're veteran owned and operated, all in one. But
it's not a ton of information.
No.
It's here's an introduction to
who we are,
the
Yep.
company, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So you've got that. The headlines on each one, you kind of went through what's each one, and you mentioned that was important. So that's another very important piece of the content is the headlines. Why does that need to stand out, and how long should that be? And
well, you got to think, if you just take a bunch of information, and throw it all together, like you got to have a flow to it. Like, so the customer, when they're looking at it, they need to easily be able to follow along and know exactly, okay, what do they offer, and what within that is their offerings, like, so like for us, print items, okay, that's brochures, booklets, flyers, business cards, and so on. So it's like it lists it and then et cetera. You don't have to obviously list all the many items we can do on the print side, but it gives them good indication what that means.
Yeah.
And so let's say on healthcare, obviously you got your different categories. I'll let you handle that.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm looking at ours as you're saying it.
Yeah.
The headline, the when you open it up, I don't know if you can see this, but it lists what our services are.
Yep.
That is the most important part of our business, is what services do we provide.
Yep.
Then it's broken down. We've got skilled nursing under that.
What that is.
What that actually means.
Yep.
Not in like it doesn't explain what, post-operative care is. It just says post-operative care.
Yep.
Most people will be able to figure that out, but whatever it is. So it just lists out those things. Physical therapy is the next headline down. Occupational therapy, and then it says what all that entails. Speech therapy and what that entails, so on and so forth. And so the headline is very clear. Here's the services we provide. It breaks it down into smaller chunks.
Yep.
And then it breaks it down even smaller than that. Then it talks, on the next page, it talks about our approach. This is kind of the mission statement, if you will. Mm-hmm. This is more of the personal side, the human side of it, right? And then, then you on the other side, it's our locations, what areas we cover. And then the last thing on the very back page, very last thing you'll see is the specific addresses and phone numbers for all of our different locations. So when you talk about the flow of the information and the content, it logically makes sense if I hand this to a potential customer or referral source that says, oh, okay, this is Trilogy. Oh, here's what they provide. Here's how they do it. And here's where they do it at. So it all makes sense in how it flows. Like, it would make no sense if on I open it up and it's like, here's where we're at.
Yep.
Here's where you're at doing what. So I like that.
Basically, when you're doing, especially trifold, like brochures in particular a lot of printed items, you have your 3-part NCRs, like form, it is what it is. It's a form. That's really easy. Letterhead, envelope, a flyer, you have one. Flyers also, you kind of have to make sure you're visually pleasing to move around within, even in the flyer, because you don't want to just throw a bunch of spit and information there. You want it to flow as well too. But it's especially important on a brochure to have that, you got to guide them through the experience of what your company is and what it offers and all that kind of stuff.
So that goes to the design aspect. So you've got this content. Now you're talking about the design. You're talking about how it flows. Is it pleasing to the eye? So I remember this being a rule when we would create slide decks, PowerPoint slides that bullet points and visual aids, you don't want it to be busy. You want it to convey the message, but if I have to read a paragraph, I'm kind of losing the effect of it, right? So what's the right balance? And I know it depended, but let me just ask it this way. Is there a right balance, for words to visuals?
Yeah, and I think it also depends on your company, because maybe your company only offers one thing. Maybe a brochure isn't what's right for you, because maybe you don't have enough information for you to really put into a brochure. And that maybe doesn't make the most sense. Maybe you do need to do a half sheet of a flyer or something like that, because that's how little of offerings you really need to explain, and not saying that you don't have a lot of business, but let's say, an electrical business, and he just does one particular electrical service. That's the only thing he does. He's niched down to that or whatever, and that's the only thing he offers. He doesn't need probably a trifold.
Yeah.
But a plumber, like I just did a plumbing, they have a lot of different things they do, and especially here in Ocala, they also do equine fountain. We talked about that. We had her on the podcast.
Yeah.
And we did a trifold for her, and she's got all the different things different niche down things within the plumbing industry that they offer, that maybe a lot of people don't even think about, water softeners and different things like that. When they think plumber, they think flood or pipes bust.
Yeah, pipes bust, clogged toilet.
Yeah, so they don't necessarily think about they can filter your water, they can do all the different things, to help all that that don't necessarily think about. So within that, the big thing I think also too is not even just the path that you're taking them down and what order matters most, and not putting too much information in there or little information, is adding pictures to correlate to it. So now it is a little harder, say, for your business, because You could do technically like PT, then over here's a PT exercise you're doing with somebody or something like that. Whereas like you like on that one,
it's just got the one, it's got, all the information, but it's got the one picture here.
Yeah.
So it breaks it up. And then at the bottom, it doesn't cover the full thing. So it's got our little logo and stuff on there. So
That's the only thing I could say, if you wanted to try to make that a little better, instead of a general picture, like even in the front, you have a general picture of like helping somebody. I think that's good for the cover because honestly, it just shows generally you work with the elder community. But on that other side, maybe you could put a picture right next to physical therapy, show them doing a physical therapy exercise, or something like that. That kind of correlates the category with the picture, not just a generalization. But those are the only things I could say that could, make that spruced up.
I think it depends on how much, like in this one, it's listing out a bunch of things, but like in yours, it would be impossible. Like there's things that are improbable. It would be impossible to put 500,000 different promo items.
Well, that's why you'll go over. It's one more over, right there. See, and if you look at the bottom, that bottom right, see it says
maybe 20 things.
No, it says over 500 in the circle. And it says over 500,000 possibilities or something like that.
So it's like, it would be impossible to do that. But you got a few on there, so that kind of shows the point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we got content, we've got the design, and how it flows. It's also important to consider the type of paper it goes on. And you already kind of mentioned the flyer. Do you want a brochure? Do you want a pamphlet? Is it folded once, folded 3 times? Like, all of that kind of stuff matters. And why is it important to consider the stock, the fold, all that? So
again, it goes back to what we talked about with the business cards, where it's a little more, better, memorable, depending on what you use. So like we have 2 different stocks here. So I can just tell, sorry, I got to stay by the mic. I can just tell by this one is probably 100-pound gloss text. Not a bad one at all. But this one is 100-pound cover. So this one is, more flimsy. Not to say this is going to be flimsy too, but it's
different. Yeah,
you can tell the stiffness of it. Like it's not going to bend. So this is going to last better. So whereas, especially if it's something that you want them to be able to use over and over again, or not use over and over again, but reference back to, it's going to be sturdy and last better rather than this could get dinged up and bent and ripped a lot easier compared to this one. That would be the only thing I would suggest or say. And as far as you could do the same thing like we talked about the business cards, this could be a soft touch. So you got the velvet feel. You could raise UV that on the logo side.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that on the pamphlets. Yeah.
So it's just again, what you have to do differently, which this naturally folds, like just folds because this is a text weight. This you have to pre-score, and what that means by that is basically you have to. It's a machine that goes through and it creates that little crease, so when it goes through the folder, it folds better because otherwise the thicker stock doesn't want to fold as well.
Yeah, and it'll also kind of mess up the ink on the edges too, right?
If it's a lower quantity, it goes on a digital press, or not press, but digital machine, and that would use toner, and there's possibilities of cracking when you use toner, more likeliness.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's the other thing with the brochures to keep in mind. Actually, I didn't even write this in my notes, but it's a good thing to reference is, I say this with anything. If you know you're going to use different brochures and anything like that, like over time, and you have it in your budget to order a larger amount, first of all, it's going to be cheaper per brochure anyways. But 2, for like us, then it's going to go on our press and you're going to use ink. So it's going to be less likely you're going to have any cracking on the creases. And that's something I always like try to warn many people about as well.
Interesting.
There are some ways you can try to like negate, do as best you can. You can, try to like, what a lot of people don't realize, and this is probably nothing they would ever have to worry about or anything, but just the insider talk of what we deal with is on the papers, they actually have grains. They go short or long grains, vertical or horizontal, basically. And if you want to basically try your best, but it doesn't always cut the best, because you got to remember, like, this is not the sheet we buy. We buy 23 by 35 sheets.
So there'd be like 2 of these stacked on
8
top,
of those,
or 8 of these on top. Yeah.
Yep.
So you'd be printing multiple on one sheet of paper, like boom, 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 boom.
Yep, 8 of those on one sheet. So,
and then you cut them.
Yeah, but where I'm saying is, if at all possible, if you can, you want to try, especially if you're doing brochures where it's going to be fold or anything like that, you want to try to run the crease along the grain. So you want the vertical grain to try to match up, and that helps from the cracking. Doesn't always work like that because just cost efficiency.
Yeah.
You try to get as many up on the paper as you can, and it just ends up how it is, So, but that's just like a little insider tip of what we kind of try to do on our end that a lot of people don't even realize is a thing. Yeah. So
if you want to leverage different print and promotional products for your company but don't know how to go about doing it, click the link below and let's schedule a free strategy session with me, and I'd love to help you guys out. Look forward to talking with you.
So I bet there's a lot of people that don't even realize how a brochure could be a sales tool. I know in the Army when I was in recruiting, we had a ton of different ones, like for all kinds of different ones. So how do you recommend people use it as a marketing tool and not just ending up in the landfill somewhere?
So I am of the mindset that when I'm just doing sales calls, I just hand out business cards. If I have a conversation with somebody and I feel like it goes somewhere, I will leave a brochure. And sometimes even a promo item, just depending, or something to remember, extra to remember us by. But I don't typically just give away the extra things unless I feel there's a potential, because again, there is some cost involved. Again, it's not crazy expensive to have a brochure, but it's still an extra cost, and you're already giving them a business card that has a cost. So like, if you did that every single person you talk to, and sometimes when I was doing more like straight, like going door to door, yeah. That adds up very quickly. Yeah. At least at the business card, you could mass produce those and get them fairly cheap. This is a little more expensive, obviously, but that's where I would come in and say I try to hand those off a little more. Plus, I do a thicker one, so like that's even more expensive, doing the thicker stock and everything. But that's just my opinion on how But the biggest thing is, you think about it. When you've gotten them, somebody's talking to you and they're telling you things, and you're kind of looking, oh, okay. Oh, you do this too?
Yeah, I was going to say, I use this as a conversation piece.
Yeah.
So when I'm going into a new account that I've never been in before, even though they know, they probably heard of the company, they know what home health care is, I'm still going, hey, I just want to make sure, have you ever heard of Trilogy before? Yeah, I heard you. Oh, are you aware of all the services that we provide? Oh, no, I know y'all do like this or that. I'm like, yeah, well, take a look at this. Like, this is, everything we do with skilled nursing, physical therapy. So I'm using it as a conversation piece, as the visual. I'm not going, okay, skilled nursing, we do psychiatric care, we do post-operative. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm just like, I'm showing them, here's what's in here. Look at my thing. And then that way, whenever I walk away, they're like, let me take a look at this. And then they, they happen to catch something. They're like, and then it triggers something in their head. Oh, wait, just like you said, y'all do, what do you mean by injections? Oh, well, if you have someone who's, just got put on insulin or something like that, or if they have to have a daily medication or something like that, we can come in and teach and train them how to do that.
Yep.
Really? I did not know that. Yeah. So this is a great conversation piece. How we talked in a previous episode about the business card being, used in that manner. This is just a way to give even more information. But I do agree. I'm not just going to some random person be like, let me show you this. Like, I'm not. Yeah. You're not going to do that.
And in my opinion too, that goes to different I don't even know how to. I'm trying to think of the proper word, but where your mind gets it gets hit a different way. Like, so if I'm just talking to you, telling you what I'm doing, you're only hitting one part of the brain. Whereas then now, if I see you're telling me verbally, but now I'm also seeing visually,
Yeah.
it's now hitting multiple facets
You're bringing in the information in multiple different ways. Yeah.
So that also helps build your case a little bit too. One, building that relationship, keeping you top of mind because now they're getting multiple hits there, from their psychology standpoint.
Yeah.
And so that helps you as well.
Yeah. So 2025, at the time of this recording, paper is slowly being replaced by digital things. I think there's still a lot of use for this, a lot of need for it. But how do you bring this paper material into the current time? Like, what are some things you can add to this to make it relative to the technology?
So we've talked about this on, honestly, probably many episodes, but we are now so overly digitally saturated in our current state in 2025 of life that most people find like the old school style of paper now actually more open and pleasing to them, because it's kind of more of a throwback. I guess it's not a throwback because it's never went away, but also it's more of that like personalization that people now, it's more nostalgic to them of getting those type of things, I think.
Well, it's also just holding something like this in your hand as opposed to flipping through your phone.
Yep.
It gives you a reason to slow down.
Yeah.
And unplug from the electronics.
Well, that's why a lot of, we went to a lot of ebooks and things like that. And I think a lot of people still, it has this place because you can listen to ebook while you're driving and different things like that. There's definitely, but a lot of people was fearing that books were going to go away and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like more people now want books because they're like, no, I want to hold a book and read it. And so I feel like, you just think about, I don't know if we'll ever get like some of the old crazy hairdos that, were back in the day by any means, or even some of the
do a pompadour
or some of the crazy outfits, but even a lot of those trends are coming back.
Yeah.
Like I've even seen a lot of people bell-bottom jeans and just different styles coming back. There's always things that people are always trying to revert back to. And I think especially now with social media and everything else and always being on our phones and everything like that, it's just that this brings a different nostalgia that people like.
So what's some things you can add to this? I'm sure you could put QR codes in it.
Yeah.
To bridge that gap and make it easier for people to find additional information. Because this has limited information.
Yep.
Right? So we have our website on here. I wonder, if having that on there is good, but is it even better to have the QR code where you can scan it? Maybe?
Yep. You could do that, or you can give them an offer on the scan, have it go to a landing page that gives you a free offering or whatever that case may be. But, or like you talked about, gives you their contact, when they scan it, gives all your contact information on their phone. There's different things that you could use that QR code for on there as well. You could even use it as a discount. You wouldn't do it as a QR code necessarily, but you could put an offer on your brochure and do a perf off or like that.
Yeah, bring 10% off. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Bring that in. There's some different things like that. Now it doesn't make a little more cost on there because now you're adding an extra step in the machine that we have to do. But again, if it helps you by them having the tear off and everything like that,
if you got to spend an extra $100 to bring in an extra 1,000, that's a pretty good return.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So there's different ways you can kind of go about that to add little touches to it, to make it work for you.
Okay. Now, what do you think the one thing that a lot of these brochures are missing? I know you got a challenge for people out there, and I think a lot of brochures probably miss a really good call to action, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I think that most of them, first of all, the design is key because we were talking before this that if you don't get the right design and somebody hands you a brochure or a flyer for anything, and it is not visually pleasing or is just looks like it's a white piece of paper with just words, like, and nothing colorful, nothing bringing them to it to read it, or if it just doesn't flow right, they're not going to take the time. It's going to be thrown in the trash. Not to say these aren't going to get thrown in the trash by a lot of people. Realistically speaking, that is a possibility. But if you don't do it right and set it up right, you're definitely going to trash. And in my opinion, it's also a judge of your company.
Yeah.
If you are handing them trash, they're going to think you're trash. That sounds horrible of me to say it like that, but it truly is. Like this is a representation you're handing out. Anything you are giving out to a customer is a representation of what you are representing. Yeah. And if you are giving them horrible stuff, they're not going to think. I think a lot of this happens a lot in unfortunately, our service industries, because most of those guys are just blue collar, like they just don't know how to think like this. They're just like, well, I just do the work, like, yep. Like I don't. So if in a lot of those,
they don't pay me to design shit.
Yeah. So I have to literally sometimes tell them, like, listen, I get it. You want to just be basic, but don't worry about if it's pretty or not. Like that makes you look less manly. Or I've had this conversation. I've had that conversation with people like trust me, this is going to bring attention to your brand, and you want that, and that's what you have to keep in mind. And so like, because otherwise, if you just the one guy I'm thinking of, I won't say who it was, but they handed it to me, and it was like the worst I've ever seen in my life. And it was like he literally typed it on a Word document and then like put it on there. That's all it was.
Space in order to get it moved to the next column.
And I was like, and I told him, I was like, have you ever had anybody actually refer back to these things? He's like, not really. I was like, I can tell you why.
You know what comes to mind when you said that. I don't know why, but you've seen the really cheap the Chinese restaurants. It's the white paper with the red. It's all red ink, and it's like some kind of trifold or it's folded in half or something. And it's their takeout menus.
Oh yeah.
And they look horrible.
Yeah,
it's like. It looks like they printed it at home and they folded it at home. They just look horrible. And so it's like, if that's what your brochure looks like, what is your food like?
Yeah.
Elevate is the key. You want to elevate what the perception of your potential customer.
Yep, exactly. And even if you're not there yet, that honestly, so, maybe you're not even there to the level of how good this looks, or even what you're putting yourself out there as a persona. Not to say that you want to be fake by any means, but you have to sometimes put yourself in this elevated position of what you want to be to eventually get to that point. Because if you are, just starting out and you present like you're just starting out, maybe you're not going to get people that are going to trust you because they'll know you're a startup. But if you can come off like what you're talking about, look like you're talking about, and then you do good work, then that is how
when you take off.
That's when you take off.
Yeah,
so those are all big keys in my opinion. You gotta present yourself as the big player, even if you aren't the big player. You gotta make sure you look the part. And that's even in the way you like in apparel. When you're showing up to a job. Now, there are a couple of ones like painters and things like that. Okay, you're gonna get that messy. Don't waste a good shirt.
But that's part of it, though.
That's part of the persona. That's part of the persona. Yeah. So
the white pants and and I always wondered, how do they keep them as clean as they actually look when they show up? I'm like,
I don't know. So it's but what I was getting at is like even like a professional look and logoed stuff and everything like that, like that's important as well. to present yourself in that manner too.
And I would close it out with this right here. If you're in doubt and you don't know what you need for your business, take it to the professionals. Stop by the office, go see, the FIP people. Let them put together design for you that will help you stand out. Instead of trying to do it by yourself on an old computer with a dot matrix printer and your wife is folding it in half.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So hopefully you guys got some good knowledge from this. And next time you're looking at doing your brochures, you'll know the best route to take. And hopefully you're with the right company. If not, come see us. But if not, whoever you go to, just make sure they're doing it the right way and take good care of you. Make sure you're presenting yourself as the expert in your field. If you can, like, subscribe, share this on social media. We would greatly appreciate it. Until next time, let's grow together.
It's time to step up, yeah. It's grind time, no more letting up. No, running faster, further, no more running up. Yeah, giving my all, no more giving up. Listen to me, step, it's time to step it up.